You know, every July, the entire sports world kind of turns its focus to France for what is, without a doubt, one of the most grueling and spectacular events out there. But the Tour de France, it's so much more than a bike race. It's this incredible century-long saga of human endurance, wild ambition, and just legendary rivalries.
All right, let's dive into this amazing story. I mean, look at it today. The Tour is a full-blown global phenomenon. You've got this massive, vibrant swarm of riders, the peloton, made up of the best athletes on the planet, and they're racing across 3,500 kilometers of mountains, countryside, and cities. It's this incredible, high-tech, high-stakes battle for glory, and millions of us are glued to our screens watching it.
So what are they all fighting for? Well, it's pretty simple, and it's all about these iconic jerseys. The big one, the coveted yellow jersey, that goes to the overall race leader, the guy with the fastest total time. Then you've got green for the fastest sprinter, the awesome polka dot jersey for the best climber, the king of the mountains, and white for the best young gun under 26. Each one is its own battle within the bigger war.
Yeah, it's a modern epic, for sure. But here's the craziest part. What if I told you that this monumental test of the human spirit didn't start with some lofty athletic ideal? Nope. The whole thing was born as a desperate marketing ploy to win a newspaper war.
That's right, you heard me. To really get the Tour, you have to go back to its roots. And those roots aren't in sports. They're in business. The origin of the Tour de France is, hands down, one of the greatest marketing stunts in history.
So let's paint a picture. We're in Paris at the turn of the 20th century. The top sports paper, the big dog, was a paper called Le Vélo. And then you had this struggling upstart, Lotto, which was created to compete, but honestly, it was getting crushed. It was on the brink of total failure, just losing this bitter war for readers. So the editors are in this crisis meeting, trying to figure out how to save the paper. And a young journalist, Guy Lefebvre, he pitches this absolutely insane idea. Not just a bike race. No, the biggest, longest, most demanding bicycle race anyone had ever even dreamed of. A tour of the entire country. It was a complete Hail Mary, a last-ditch effort to grab people's attention.
And you know what? It worked. It worked brilliantly. The very first race kicked off on July 1st, 1903. 60 riders, can you imagine? Set off. 19 grueling days later, this guy, Maurice Garin, became the first ever winner. But here's the kicker for the organizers. The circulation of their newspaper, Lotto, doubled. The stunt wasn't just a success, it was a home run.
So the stunt worked, sales were up, but what nobody could have seen coming was that this marketing gimmick would take on a life of its own. It started to evolve fast, and it began forging this legendary and often pretty chaotic identity.
And when I say chaotic, I mean pure chaos. The second tour, in 1904, was just a complete mess. We're talking widespread cheating, sabotage, even fans physically attacking riders they didn't like. It got so bad that the race director Henri Desgrange literally published a headline in his own paper that just said, "The End." He swore that was it, the last tour ever.
Thankfully for all of us, he changed his mind. And over the next few decades, the race really started to invent the traditions that we know today. In 1910, they added the mountains, these absolutely brutal climbs in the Pyrenees. Then in 1919, the yellow jersey was born. And the color? It was a genius nod to the yellow newsprint of the paper that started it all, Lotto. Later came national teams, and of course that iconic finish on the Champs-Élysées. The legend was being built, piece by piece.
So as the race started to mature and its traditions became set in stone, it really entered a golden age. This is when it began to produce true legends, athletes whose names basically became synonymous with cycling itself.
Okay, so winning the Tour de France once is a life-changing achievement, but winning it 5 times, that makes you royalty. It is the most exclusive club in cycling, and only 4 men have ever done it. Jacques Anquetil, the great Eddy Merckx, Bernard Hinault, and Miguel Indurain.
Now, of those 4, Eddy Merckx just stands out. He was so dominant, so hungry to win every single stage, every sprint, every climb, that they gave him the nickname the Cannibal. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to devour the competition. To give you an idea of how dominant he was, in 1969 he won the Tour by almost 18 minutes. That's just unbelievable.
But this era was also so great because of the rivalries. They were just epic. Here you see Jacques Anquetil, the cool, calculating champion, right next to his great rival, Raymond Poulidor. Poulidor was a huge fan favorite, but he famously never, ever won the Tour. He finished second 3 times and third 5 times, which earned him the tragic but also kind of affectionate nickname, the Eternal Second.
All right, this brings us into the modern era.
And this is where the race enters a, let's say, more complicated phase. It was marked by huge challenges, incredible leaps in technology, and a whole new breed of global superstars.
Look, it's impossible to talk about the modern tour without facing its darkest chapter. For a while, the record books showed one man with an incredible 7 straight victories. But after a massive doping investigation, all of Lance Armstrong's titles were revoked, completely wiped from the history books, leaving this huge, unprecedented void.
The fallout from that whole era forced cycling to take a long, hard look in the mirror. And out of that reckoning came sweeping changes. The sport brought in sophisticated biological passports to monitor athletes, and we saw an absolute revolution in sports science, nutrition, and training that has totally redefined what's humanly possible on a bike.
And I mean, you can see that evolution so clearly right here. On the left, you've got Maurice Green back in 1903 on a heavy, single-speed steel bike that looks more like a tank. And on the right, you've got Jonas Vingegaard and today Pogačar, modern rivals, on these ultra-light carbon fiber machines, guided by real-time data. It's the same race, but it is a completely different world.
And today's tour is more global than it has ever been. We've seen recent winners from all over the world. The racing itself is defined by these fierce new rivalries, like the incredible duels between Slovenia's today's Pogačar and Denmark's Jonas Vingegaard. And, in a hugely important step forward, 2022 saw the triumphant return of an official women's Tour de France, inspiring a whole new generation of riders.
So when you step back and look at it, from a wild newspaper stunt to a global sporting epic, the Tour de France has always been a mirror of its time. It has survived wars, scandals, and all sorts of controversies to remain the ultimate test for a cyclist. The only question now is, what's next?